Picture a stone hall lit by torches in the dead of a French winter. A girl stands in the middle of it, 16 years old, in a patched red dress with mud from the road still on her clothes. She has just told the captain of this garrison to send her to the King of France. And the room is laughing at her. The loudest laugh belongs to the captain himself. Remember his face, because within a year, this same man is going to put a sword in her hand, give her 6 riders, and send her off to become the most famous woman in the history of war. One day there will be statues of this girl in every church in France. But not yet. Tonight she is nobody, a farmer's daughter from the edge of a dying country. Her name is Joan of Arc, and everything you know about her, the armor, the banner, the fire, all of it hangs on what happens at this door. Because here's the thing, the laughter made sense. To see why, you have to look at the France she was offering to save, and at the girl doing the offering. Start with France. It was almost gone. A generation earlier, a treaty had signed the crown away, declaring the King of England the true heir of France. The invaders and their allies held the north. The rightful heir, the Dauphin, was an uncrowned, doubting man, short on money and shorter on hope. And the English were closing in on Orléans, the last great city guarding the south. If Orléans fell, France fell with it. Now the girl. Far from all of this, in a village called Domremy, a farmer's daughter was growing up. Nobody wrote down the birthdays of farmers' daughters, but she was born around 1412 to Jacques d'Arc and Isabelle Romay. She spun wool. She herded her father's animals. By every sworn account, she was an ordinary, devout kid. But from the time she was about 13, Joan was carrying something she told almost no one. Years later, under oath, with her life on the line, she described it plainly: voices. First in her father's garden. Voices she knew as St. Michael, St. Catherine, and St. Margaret, telling her that France had to be saved, and that she was the one who was going to save it. Make of that whatever you want. This channel reports the sworn record, and the sworn record is what she said. What matters for this story is what she did about it. A peasant girl couldn't just walk up to a king, but the nearest royal stronghold, a garrison town called Vaucouleurs, held the nearest royal captain, a soldier named Robert de Baudricourt. So in the spring of 1428, 16 years old, she talked her uncle into taking her there, and she made her demand, "Send me to the Dauphin." Baudricourt's answer survives word for word from the man who stood there and heard it. "Give her a good slap and take her home to her father." They laughed. She went home. And that might have been the end of it. One strange girl, one shut door, a story nobody ever tells. But that summer, the war came to her. Raiders swept through the valley and Domremy burned. Her family ran with what they could carry. And when they came back, the church where she had prayed her whole life was a blackened shell. Then, in October, the English tightened their grip around Orléans. The city began to starve. France was running out of time, and everybody, from the Dauphin's court down to a burned village on the Meuse, could feel it. So in January of 1429, in the coldest stretch of the year, Joan walked back through the gates of Vaucouleurs. She did it against everything: her father's wishes, the winter roads, and plain common sense. Her father had dreamed she would run off with soldiers and said he would rather see her drowned. She had no money, no connections, no name. She stayed with a family in town. She spun wool, and she waited at the captain's door. But Baudricourt turned her away, again. So she stayed, and here is where the story turns, because the town started believing her before the captain did. There was an old prophecy in that part of France that the kingdom, lost by a woman, would be saved by a young girl from the borderlands of Lorraine. And now, here was a young girl from the borderlands of Lorraine, standing at the captain's door, refusing to leave. A young soldier named Jean de Metz walked up to her, half mocking, half curious. Was the king supposed to be run out of his own kingdom, he asked. Were they all supposed to become English? Her answer, as he swore to it years later, won him over on the spot. She had to reach the Dauphin before the middle of Lent, a deadline just weeks away. Even if she wore her legs down to the knees getting there, because no one else in the world could save France. And because she was born to do this. The captain, rattled, sent a priest to test her with holy water, in case the thing standing at his door was a demon. She was furious. That priest had heard her confession. He, of all people, knew better. But she passed. Even a duke, the old Duke of Lorraine, summoned her just to get a look at her. And still, no escort, no answer. A girl, a spinning wheel, and a shut door. In the end, what opened that door wasn't a miracle anyone could see. It was a disaster, a week's hard ride away. On February 12, 1429, near a village called Rouvray, an English supply convoy was rolling toward the siege of Orléans. Hundreds of carts loaded with arrows, cannonballs, and barrels of salted herring, fish for Lent, when the army couldn't eat meat. A French and Scottish force caught the convoy in open country, outnumbered it, attacked, and got cut to pieces. Within earshot of the starving city they had come to save. They called it the Battle of the Herrings. What happened next became one of the most famous stories in France. The old chronicles say that on that same day, days before any messenger could arrive, Joan stood in front of Baudricourt one last time and told him to stop stalling. The Dauphin's men had just suffered a terrible defeat near Orléans, and if he kept stalling, worse was coming. Days later, the messengers rode in. A terrible defeat near Orléans, exactly as the girl had said. And something in the captain broke. There's an honest asterisk on that story, and we'll get to it. But what happened next is beyond all doubt, because half the town swore to it. The people of Vaucouleurs bought her a horse. They cut her hair short like a soldier's, and dressed her in a man's riding clothes for the road through enemy country. And Robert de Baudricourt, the man who had laughed, the man who had said slap her and send her home, gave her a sword, 6 companions, and a blessing that survives word for word. Go, go, and come what may. They rode for 11 nights, through country held by the enemy, moving in the dark, fording winter rivers, sleeping wherever they could. 350 miles to a castle above the river Vienne where the Dauphin of France was waiting. And at Chinon, the way the court told the story for years afterward, the Dauphin decided to test her one more time. He hid in a crowd of hundreds of courtiers, dressed in plain clothes, just another face in the room. The farm girl walked into that great hall, past the lords of France. And she went straight to him. You know what happens next. Everyone knows what happens next. She got armor and a banner and an army. She reached Orléans at the end of April, and the siege that had strangled the city for 7 months broke in 9 days. By July, the uncrowned Dauphin stood in the cathedral at Reims, crowned King of France, with the girl from Domremy standing beside him in armor. She was 17. 2 years later, captured and sold to her enemies, she was burned alive in the market square at Rouen, and 500 years after that, the church made her a saint. That's the legend. Now notice where it doesn't start. It doesn't start with the armor. It doesn't start at Orléans. It starts in a small stone town on the edge of the war, where a teenager fought the one battle that made every other battle possible, against a shut door. She had no army, no rank, and no weapon except her own certainty. She got refused, laughed at, and tested for demons. And she won the way she would win everything after. She just would not go home. They laughed at Joan of Arc. She was born for exactly this. Now, the honest asterisk, because this channel deals in the real record. That famous prediction, the defeat announced the same day it happened, hundreds of miles away, it's not in the sworn record, not in her trial where she testified about everything else, not in the depositions of the Vaucouleurs witnesses who remembered the slapline and the red dress and the prophecy. It shows up only in chronicles written afterward, after she was already a legend. What the sworn record actually says is simpler and stranger. The captain refused her twice, and then in February he suddenly said yes. Something changed his mind. France has told the prediction story ever since. The record itself keeps the secret. And the voices? We reported exactly what she testified, under oath, facing the fire, and nothing more. Some things this channel won't pretend to settle. Oh, and for the third episode in a row, we don't actually know our legend's birthday. At her trial, the most famous teenager in Europe could only say she was about 19. Apparently, legends never come with paperwork. If you want more true stories about the moment before the famous became famous, subscribe. Every source, ancient and otherwise, is listed in the description.